Now we will go over some goal characteristics. So specifically, um, some of these characteristics include specificity, which we'll get into here shortly, the standard of comparison, and valence. Valence, so whether we want to, approach or avoid something. And these two aspects get at defining whether or not we're successful or not with the goal. The importance of a goal is very important for how we strive to complete goals and whether or not we persevere, I guess, towards goal completion. And there's also a difficulty / level of aspiration aspect to goals. And then finally, what we'll actually talk about more in the next lecture video is distal versus proximal goals and level of abstraction. So just how broadly or specifically we're thinking about something, and then additionally just like how close we are to that goal. So first, goal specificity here. In general, our goals tend to be better and we tend to be more successful at reaching our goals, and that's it tends to be more of a meaningful goal when we keep them specific as opposed to too broad. Mainly just because at this point they become measurable, which is very important, as we'll see here in this study. So in this study, it was on loggers who were told in 3 separate conditions to do one various goal. So the first was just the goal of do your best. The second was log a certain amount of wood, but this was set by another person. Or there was log this amount of wood and it was set by the self. And as we can see, in general, more specific goals were better. The performance of logging and moving a certain amount of wood here per hour was better for those who set specific goals, especially overall when that goal is set by the self. And again, the idea or the reasoning behind this is that when we're setting specific measurable goals, we know whether or not we are reaching them, versus if your goal is just do your best. What does do your best mean? Let's define do your best as something that's measurable. And with this, if we realize that we are not doing a great job in reaching that goal, which we can tell because it's measurable, then we can decide, okay, something's not going right here. I need to probably change whatever strategy I'm using to reach this goal. Getting to some Locke and Latham goal research. Goals should not only be specific, but they should also be challenging. However, they shouldn't be impossible. So we're looking for something around, ish in the 75 chance of success range. And a key moderator here is commitment to the goal. So once these goals get too difficult, we see a very large drop in performance, right? Probably because people realize that these aren't attainable goals and start to quit them, or really just not put an effort because it doesn't matter anyways, it's not attainable. That's where we see the drop in performance. All right, getting to the characteristic of standard of comparison and valence. So standard of comparison, what are we comparing our goal to know whether it's successful or not? So yeah, in other words, how do we define success? So we have a few 6 different options here. A couple of these are task-related goals. So we have the task approach goal. An example of this would be, I want to, on this task, or we'll say, and we'll use an example of academia, so a test here, I want to get an 85% on this test. That would be a task approach goal, versus I want to avoid getting below an 85%. That would be a task avoidance goal. We can also compare our goals to ourselves and what we have done in the past. So we could say for a self-approach goal, okay, I got a 70% on the last test. I want to do better than that on this next test. Or for a self-avoidance goal, we could say, I want to avoid doing worse than that 70% that I got on the last test. Finally, we can also compare our goals to how others are doing, or we can make that our goal. And so for another approach goal, we could say, I want to do better than 80% of the class on this test, no matter what that percentage is, whether it's a 60% or 90% on this test. I just want to do better than 80% of the other people in this class. Or we could also word that as another avoidance goal, where that phrasing would be, I want to avoid doing worse than 20% of the class. And we'll see that there are differing outcomes based on which goal type we use here. And so approach goals in general are better than avoidance goals. We see that here, right, for other approach, we see greater performance versus if we are having an approach goal for the task. This increases intrinsic interest. This is more like mastery related goals. I'm not doing this to do better than anyone else or to do better than myself. I just want to enjoy this and do my best. And so, yeah, we see that approach goals do usually have benefits here. And we see that the worst goal to make typically is going to be the other avoidance goal here. So we see that there is quite a bit of worry, and potentially this takes up cognitive resources like we talked about before, right? Getting way back into some theories we talked about previously and challenge versus threat and all of that. But we see not only an increase in worry for these other avoidance goals, we also see a decrease in performance. And then the self goals seem to be kind of in the middle of all this. Another example here of different goal types leading to better or worse performance. So this gets at the same idea, but it does use some different language. So we talked about task goals in the previous couple of slides. Those are the mastery goal. That's the mastery goal that you see here versus performance goals that you see. That's in comparison to others, like we talked about previously. So in this study, it was on elementary school kids. They had a basketball obstacle course. They had to dribble through some obstacles, shoot a basket, then go back, dribble some more. And the measure of performance was just time to get through this obstacle course. For results, we see that, as expected, based on the last couple of slides, the approach and other performance goal led to more practice time and more an evaluation of more competence. And as well, the combination of these two things then lead to an increase in performance. So a faster speed going through that obstacle course relative to that performance avoidance goal. Additionally, similarly here, what we would expect, that mastery or task goal seems to be more successful in an increase in competence, an increase in practice time, and also an improvement in performance relative to, again, the performance avoidance goal, which does seem to be consistently the worst performance-wise with these types of goals. Also, a very important aspect of goals here is importance. So whether or not we really care about this goal. And so goals that we typically really care about are self-completing or defining goals. And so an example of this would be a career goal. So, that's our careers are usually something that are pretty defining for ourselves. So therefore they are important to us. In this study, I'll go over the results on the next slide, but I just want to introduce it here. The participants were students who were being trained to be medical professionals. They did an initial social competence task, and they were either told that this task is important for your future career field in being a medical professional, or they were told that this is not important. It's all about, knowing the medicine or surgery or whatever. And this whole social competence, bedside manner, that doesn't really matter. Additionally, also what was manipulated was feedback. So they either got no feedback on their performance of this task, or they got negative feedback. So it's like, hey, you didn't do very well at this. So the important condition for what we're looking for here is this failure on a relevant task, because if it's relevant, that gets at that self-completing, self-defining goals. And so what are we going to do if we failed an initial task for that? And then what we will see on the next slide, what was measured here was performance on a second task, which was a mental just concentration task, just finding this D with a couple of apostrophes here. And basically that task is boring, so it's not necessarily something that people like to do. But again, as with the first task, it was either described as something that was important for a physician to be able to do. It's like, hey, you need to really be able to concentrate on reports, or they weren't told that, just doesn't really matter. It's only a task finding this, and it's kind of boring, and that's it. So results here. The main question we're trying to get at, right, is will students work hard on the task when it is relevant and when they fail the previous task? And these results show, when we're looking at the red bars, that the answer is yes. So the best performance on the second task was by a pretty solid margin here, was for those in which they were told the task was relevant and had received some negative feedback on the initial task. And so the takeaways that we do care about these self-defining or self-completing goals. And for these, especially if we fail initially, we will try to rectify our mistakes, because this is important to us. So we try to improve and do better at whatever this self-defining goal is. And just broadly, this is called self-completion. All right, that's it for this video. And the next we will go over that abstraction characteristic.